Liar paradox. Paradox 1. A seemingly absurd or self-contradictory statement that is or may be true. The original liar was initially the claim by Epimenides, a Cretan, that all Cretans are liars. Today, there are various renditions of the paradox, but the most usually discussed is the following sentence: this sentence is false. The sentence can be understood as referring to itself, saying therefore that it is itself false. This introduces the notion that self-reference is paradoxical by nature. The liar is undoubtedly a paradox in the usual sense of the word. We understand what the sentence means, but we cannot decide whether it is true or false, and this even though the sentence itself says of itself that it is false. The liar is also easy to understand. We are all familiar with the phrase "this is true" or "this is false." We are also all familiar with comments about a particular sentence claiming this or that sentence to be true or false. We also understand one sentence talking about another sentence. For example, the following sentence has 5 words. This sentence has 5 words. Thus, the characterization of the liar as a paradox resists the many claims to the contrary. It should be noted that the liar dates back to before Aristotle. Many philosophers seem to have been interested in the liar and to have discussed it. This may even have paved the way for Aristotle, since the liar is an invitation to ponder the nature of truth, which is probably a good way to prepare oneself to think about logic. The liar also appears to have been a crucial moment in the foundation of mathematical logic around 1900. The formal definition of a set as initially used in mathematics was subsequently discovered to be leading to the paradox of the set containing all the sets that do not contain themselves. Gödel's incompleteness theorem is itself based on a version of the paradox of self-reference. Self-reference may be paradoxical by nature, but maps are still very useful. Indeed, we need maps. More generally, we need to be able to represent the world, and we need to be able to use our representations of the world. The question therefore is of whether there is any substantial concrete consequence to the paradox of self-reference. Clearly, we don't need maps to include a representation of themselves. When we use a map, we hold it in our hands, so we know where it is, and so we don't need to have the location of the map on the map itself in order to help us find where the map is. Equally, we have no use for statements declaring of themselves that they are true or false. Instead, we use statements to prove the truth or falsity of a different statement. The syntax of logical formulas in propositional logic is such that a formula cannot refer to itself. No paradox there. In ordinary life, it seems that we don't care about the paradox of self-reference. Thus, the problem of the paradoxical nature of self-reference seems only to affect mathematics. This may be seen as a direct consequence of the fact that mathematics is rigorous, and it is universal in the sense that there is nothing that you couldn't potentially express in mathematical form. And thus, mathematics can represent itself or talk about itself, hence potential self-reference. There still isn't any convincing resolution to the paradox of the liar. Various resolutions have been proposed, see liar paradox, Wikipedia, but they are all somewhat contrived and unsatisfactory. However, the liar isn't a problem for logic itself, as some people like to claim. It is a problem for us, sort of. But the liar does not even suggest that there would be some fault in logic itself. There may be a fault in the way we try to resolve the paradox, but then this would be our own fault, not that of logic. Logic requires that we should be able to assume that all statements are either true or false. Some people may want to argue that the liar falsifies this assumption, since we cannot decide whether the liar is itself true or false. However, there is a crucial difference between the fact of our inability so far to decide whether the liar is true or false and the idea that the liar would indeed be neither true nor false. All we know is that it seems we cannot decide. This is a problem for us, not for logic.